Shout out to G-Man Boxing.
Alright, people. So Chris Eubank Jr. beat Liam Williams last night, because it was last night. By the time this goes out, it'll be 2 days, but it's last night as it stands. He beat Liam Williams, and in my opinion, especially early on, looked quite good doing it. You know, his punching power, although I do wonder if Liam Williams maybe had some issues, maybe neurologically, potentially. I'm just saying potentially, because it was the nature of his reaction to get dropped. The blinking profusely was a bit... So it was an eyebrow raiser when you see that. But nevertheless, he was able to show improved power, good punch selection at times. Did switch off a bit later on. I say switch off. He could have got Liam Williams out of there, in my opinion, and he was happy to just go through it. He did state to Johnny Nelson, I think it was, that he wanted to punish Liam Williams, and he hinted he didn't believe him. And it's very rare I agree with Johnny Nelson, but on this occasion I agreed with him, definitely. I think that Chris Eubank Jr., if he really wanted to, he could have got him out of there. And I think that he's been in that notion before, a bit like when he was against Marcus Morrison, where he would back up again the ropes, he'd open up on him, and it was like something said, no, go back to boxer. And he just went back to boxer and let that fight go the rounds. Now, people are talking about Eubank Jr. potentially having a world title fight in 2022. Now, I don't know if that will happen. I don't know. The belts, God knows what's going to happen with them. You've got Triple G and Murata. Now, if Murata beats Triple G, which God knows it might happen, Triple G's been out of the... Well, they've both been out of the ring for a while, actually. But Triple G's not getting any younger. You know, he'll be 40 come April. So he's not getting any younger. But let's just say, for argument's sake, Murata beats Triple G, gets the WBA and IBF middleweight title. May see Eubank Jr. going on him, because he would be kind of the weak link, you would imagine, of those champions. If Triple G wins, I wouldn't be shocked at all if he fights Canelo this year. As I said, I take it for what it is. Not at middleweight, at super middleweight. In which case then, we've got some vacant belts. So you could pick... Now, that's assuming that they... I'd say he'd vacate. I would. I'd say he probably would vacate now that I think about it. Because I can't see Triple G sticking around. If he does get a Canelo fight and he loses, I can't... Maybe go out with a win, but I can't see him. But anyway, let's just assume he vacates them. Would Lara get elevated to full champion? Lara, stay away from him. It's high risk, low reward. Stylistically, Lara is an out and out boxer. He's a pure boxer. Southpaw, long arms. I think he'd probably outreach Eubank as well, especially in the arm length, because Lara has very long arms, ridiculously long actually. So that would be someone I'd be saying maybe don't go down that road. Ben Shalom has actually hinted that maybe Kell Brook, if he beats Amir Khan, I hope that doesn't happen, because Kell Brook, him against Amir Khan should be it. He should not be going in there at middleweight to fight Eubank Jr. or anyone at middleweight for that matter, anywhere near world level. So I hope that doesn't happen. But if I look at the other champions, you've got... I can't remember his name now. Madrimov. He could fight Munguia. Because if Demetrius Andrade is going to vacate and go up to 168, he, I think, is mandatory, and Munguia is number 1 ranked. So that would be an interesting fight if that happens. How would that go? How would Eubank do against either? Madrimov, I'm not too sure about. Munguia, some people would say Munguia, Eubank would light him up. I mean, he's a pressure fighter who comes forward. Yeah, he's a pressure fighter who comes forward, but he is an elite. He's a world-class pressure fighter. You know, this isn't like a Spike O'Sullivan, Nick Blackwell, Avni Yildirim kind of pressure fighter. Munguia is a different level to that. And Munguia's work rate, his energy, his power, his volume, that's something Eubank would never have contested with. I'm sure he'd have his success in there, but I'm also sure he'd have his moments where he's like, what's going on in here? I'm normally able to put these guys away. This guy's on me, you know, like a bad smell. So that will be interesting. What I think, and this is just my opinion, what I think may happen. Ben Shalom's been speaking about Billy Joe Saunders. Billy Joe Saunders himself has been calling Chris Eubank Jr. out again on Instagram, saying, remember me, and stuff like that. Billy Joe, I don't think he's going to work with Eddie Hearn ever again. I think that relationship is dead in the water. Dead in the water. I wouldn't be surprised if Billy Joe signs maybe a 2, possibly 3 fight deal with Sky and Boxer. I wouldn't be surprised. I do think he'll come back. And it wouldn't shock me if he fights Eubank Jr. this year. Not next, but this year. That's what I reckon might happen. There are several reasons for that. From a financial point of view, for everyone involved, it makes a lot more sense than having Eubank Jr. go down a world title road, maybe having no choice but to fight a Charlo if he doesn't get Canelo, a Munguia, a Madrimov, someone like that, and maybe losing. And then what happens with Eubank Jr.? If he's going on 33 this year, if he takes an L in a world title fight, to me it just seems like it's a strange one. Right now it just doesn't seem like it's something that they do. Whereas if he fights Billy Joe in a rematch, it's a big fight on pay-per-view, money for them, money for Sky, money for Boxer, money for Sauerland, and it will probably do good numbers because both guys, money for both guys as well, because both guys are loud mouths. Both guys would sell the fight. They have Needle already stemming back from their fight back in 2014. To me, it makes a lot of sense. I could easily see a scenario where, come what, maybe May, June time, you have Eubank on one card, Billy Joe on another. Probably, obviously, they wouldn't risk each guy going in there against a top par opponent and either one losing, but they probably give them kind of below par opponents on standard Sky, which would then lead and culminate in a pay-per-view September, October, November time. Would not shock me in the slightest. And that pay-per-view, I reckon, would do good numbers. And to me, it makes a lot of sense because Sky are rebuilding now with Wasserman and Boxer. Right? And I say rebuilding. We didn't know what was going to happen when Eddie Hearn left. There was we literally knew nothing if Sky would carry on boxing. They've got a deal with Boxer now. Their stable is still quite low in terms of, marquee name fighters and stuff like that. I mean, if you look at the Amir Khan Kell Brook undercard, it's pretty crap. In the nicest possible way, it is pretty crap. So they're still rebuilding slowly. The more pay-per-view fights they can get and the more money they can recoup, I think the better chance they have of getting some of these bigger names over to Sky. Especially if these fighters like Eubank and Billy Joe are making good money over there. Maybe fighters who are with Frank Warren would look and think, well, geez, they're getting, I was going to say something, but God knows, they're getting paid at 5 when it actually says 5, if you get me. I should have called them fish eyes. I would have been able to say the other one. But maybe some fighters might look at that and think that. Maybe some fighters with Eddie Hearn might think, do you know what? Eddie Hearn has such a massive stable of fighters. I'm fighting, second on the free portion or the before the bell portion of the zone. I'd go to Boxer, get similar money, but I'm being pushed a lot more higher. And they're making good inroads, Boxer, to be fair. They signed Florian Marku. He brings a hell of a lot of fans. He's putting the Amir Khan Kell Brook fight on pay-per-view. Maybe even the rematch after that. He's got Eubank Jr. He's making some moves. Is Ben Shalon's making some moves. So I think maybe now that's more what they're thinking about. Just stabilising things out, getting some pay-per-views on, getting some big fights that are in-house made. And then maybe seeing in 2023 how the landscape of middleweight changes. Because it will evidently change. I mean, I can see Triple G probably hanging them up, maybe potentially even after this year. Certainly next year at some stage, because he's not getting any younger. Charlo, if he moves up to fight Canelo, would he vacate? Potentially. So the middleweight division, I think there's openings there for a bit of stagnation with the titles. So it could be all over the shop. Could be a kind of case of which one do you fancy? Because it's there. There's no champion. There's no champion with these two titles. Well, you could fight this guy who's real good, or this guy who's not, but he's just highly ranked. I'll take that one. Grand. Happy days. So you never know, something like that might happen. But I think that's the plan for Eubank. I wouldn't be surprised if it goes down that road. If you disagree with me, let me know in the comments what you think. You think that Eubank should go in there against Charlo, get the Charlo fight made if he can't get Canelo, and let me know if that's what you think. Leave it in the comments. I'll leave you with that. Give you something to think about. Hope you enjoyed the video, lads and lassies. If you did, if you could, smash the like button, hit subscribe if you haven't already. It does help your boy out. For now, lads and lassies, I'll talk to you